Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the untold stories behind the lives of beloved stars. Today, we bring you an emotional, dramatic, and heart-touching journey about the little couple star Will Klein. This is not just a story about fame or television. It's about family expectations, hidden love, heartbreak, and the courage to embrace one's truth. Will Klein failed her exam. Her failure left the family deeply disappointed. After the results, they thought it would be better not to waste more time on her studies. Instead, the family decided it was time to arrange her marriage. Today, Will Klein's engagement with her girlfriend Karen. Will Klein has been secretly dating Karen for past 1 year. Will Klein's parents have gifted a new house to Will Klein and her future wife. They will officially get married upcoming 10th March 2026. This is a story of resilience, of love conquering tradition, and of a family learning to embrace change. Stay with us as we unfold this journey chapter by chapter, revealing the emotions, the drama, and the unforgettable moments that make this tale feel so real. There was a lot of stillness on the morning of the test results. Will Klein sat on the edge of her bed, her heart racing as she kept refreshing the results page. She had studied, but deep down, she understood that the result might not be what everyone wanted. When the screen finally loaded, the truth hit her like a storm. She had failed. The words became blurry in front of her vision, and tears filled her eyes as the weight of disappointment crushed her spirit. Her parents, who had always believed in her, were heartbroken. For them, school wasn't only about getting good grades. It was also about pride and showing that their daughter could shine outside of the TV. They felt like they had let their dreams down by failing. There was a lot of stress around the house that night. Her mother's silence spoke more than words could say, and her father's stern face showed how disappointed he was without saying anything. Will tried to explain and claim that she had done her best, but it didn't work. At that moment, she felt smaller than ever. Her family still judged her, even though she was famous, had cameras and fans. She wasn't the star on TV anymore. She was just a daughter who had failed. Days went by, yet the disappointment stayed. Her parents started to talk about the future in low voices. Her father stated one night, "Maybe studies aren't her thing. Maybe it's time to change the way you think." And so, the choice was made. They concluded that marriage was the answer instead of forcing her to try again. To them, it was useful, safe, and right. Will was both scared and free by the choice. She was afraid of losing her freedom, but she knew she possessed a secret that could change everything. Karen, the woman she had loved in secret for a year. The woman who had been her rock when things got tough. Will's heart raced as his parents had anticipated. Would they take Karen? Would they get that love isn't about tradition, but about truth? Not passing an exam had kicked off a series of circumstances that would lead to one of the most critical days of her life. And even though the family was very sad, fate was already creating a new chapter. They had decided to get married, but Will Klein had a problem that was worse than failing her test. For a year, she had been quietly creating her own world, one full of laughter, whispered promises, and stolen moments with Karen. Karen was more than simply Will's girlfriend. She was his rock. Karen had been the one to tell her that failure was not the end, but a new beginning, even though she was disappointed and under a lot of family pressure. Their romance had evolved in secret, away from the eyes of parents, family, and fans. They could see the pieces of a puzzle in every text, every late-night conversation, and every peaceful walk they took together. Will understood that the truth couldn't stay hidden any longer now that he was getting married. She had to tell her family about Karen, not as a friend or a passing phase, but as the woman she loved. That night, when she decided to talk, things were heated. Her parents were sitting in the living room talking about possible suitors, family names, and traditions that had been passed down through the generations. Will's heart raced as she moved closer. "Mom, Dad," she said, her voice shaking but firm, "I need to tell you something. I already have a partner, someone I care about." Her parents looked at each other in confusion. "Who?" her father asked in a harsh voice. Will took a big breath. "Her name is Karen." It was so quiet after that. Her mother opened her eyes wide, and her father furrowed his brows. The air felt too thick to breathe for a moment. But Will didn't give up. She talked about how kind Karen was, how she always believed in her, and how she helped her. She said that this wasn't a covered affair. It was love that would last. Her parents had a hard time dealing with the news. Truth and tradition were at odds, and expectations and reality were at odds. But there was one thing that couldn't be denied: Will's belief. She wasn't asking for permission. She was making a choice. Karen herself came into the picture soon after. She was scared but bold as she went to meet the family. She talked to him with respect, honesty, and a quiet strength that was like his own. The walls started to break down slowly. The family knew that Will had failed an exam, but she had found someone who really understood her. And maybe that was more important than any grade. The secret was out. The love came out. And even if the future was unclear, one thing was clear: Will and Karen were ready to face it together. The news that Will Klein loved Karen had shocked the whole family. Even though Karen's parents had listened, and she had stood up to them, the weight of tradition was still heavy on their thoughts. For many centuries, the Klein family had picked partners meticulously, arranged marriages, and elders planned their futures instead of their hearts. Now that their daughter had made her choice, they were split between the old and the new. Her father walked about the living room late into the night, his voice low but strong. She didn't pass her test. She doesn't know what she wants to do with her life. The only way to make sure her future is safe is to get married. But what about Karen? His statements made people mistrust and worry. Her mother, who was gentler but just as confused, muttered, "She looks happy with Karen. I could see it in her eyes. But what will people think? What will the family think? People in the community will talk." There was pressure from both inside and outside. Calls from family members started coming in, and each one wanted to know what Will's future held. Some gave her the names of possible suitors, while others were worried about her failure. The voices of society got louder and echoed through the family's walls. Every day, Will felt the stress. There was a lot of stillness over breakfast. At supper, people started arguing instead than talking. She was stuck between what her parents wanted and what she knew was true. Karen was worried about how it was affecting Will's spirit, even if she was supportive. Will got brave one night. She said firmly, "Mom, Dad, I know you're worried. I know you believe that marriage is the answer. And I agree, it is. But marriage shouldn't be about keeping up appearances. Love should be the main thing. I choose Karen. She is my future." Her words hit me like lightning. For the first time, her parents saw not only their daughter, but also a woman who was standing on her own 2 feet and demanding her right to choose. The strain from the family didn't go away right away. Family members kept talking behind each other's backs, while neighbors kept guessing. But over time, her parents grew to see that keeping their daughter happy was more important than keeping their good name. The choice was made. Not with a stranger or a suitor designated by custom, but with Karen. The marriage would go ahead. It was a middle ground between being disappointed and accepting, between being afraid and loving. The Klein family had taken the first step toward accepting change. Even though the road ahead looked difficult, it was a win for Will. It was a sign of approval for Karen. And for the family, it was the start of a new chapter in which love, not stress, would shape the future. That morning in the Klein residence was very different from any other. The air was filled with excitement, a mix of nerves and happiness. For weeks, the family had spoken about Will's choice, fought over it, and finally agreed with it. The day had come when Will Klein and Karen would stand in front of family and friends, not in secret, but in celebration. There was a lot going on in the house. Family members came early with trays of treats and bright decorations. The living room looked like a stage for both old and new traditions. Flowers hung from the walls, lights flickered in the corners, and a table was set with rings that meant more than simply commitment. They stood for love, truth, and bravery. Will took her time getting ready, and her hands shook as she changed her clothes. She glanced in the mirror and saw not only herself, but also the reflection of a path that included failure, disappointment, revelation, and now acceptance. Karen was also nervous as she got ready in another area. This was more than an engagement for her. It was proof that love could break down walls and that her role in Will's life was no longer a secret. Everyone in the hall stopped talking when Karen walked in. She walked with grace and kept her eyes on Will's. They smiled at each other, and that smile conveyed more than words could say. We made it here together. Elders gave their blessings at the start of the ritual. Some people talked kindly, while others were unsure, but everyone knew how important the time was. Will's parents stood proudly next to their daughter, even if they were still getting used to things. Their disappointment about the tests had faded away, and they were now proud of their daughter for making her own choices. The crowd cheered when the rings were swapped. Tears fell freely, some from happiness, others from relief, and some from the fact that love had won over convention. Karen's hand shook as Will put the ring on her finger, but she never stopped smiling. The interaction wasn't over the top, but it was strong. It was a statement to the world that Will Klein had chosen her path and Karen was going to be her partner on that route. There was a lot of laughter in the house after the ceremony. Family members who had formerly doubted now gave their blessings. Friends took pictures on their phones because they wanted to tell the narrative of bravery and love. Will and Karen stood together in the middle of it all, knowing that this was just the beginning. The day of the engagement was more than just a party. It was a turning point. It was the end of hiding things and the beginning of a future based on love, honesty, and strength. Will Klein's parents did something that shocked everyone just as the engagement was starting to fade from memory. They had been thinking about their daughter's unusual choice for weeks. They had to deal with relatives who whispered behind their backs, neighbors who asked inquiries, and the quiet judgment of tradition. But underneath all of that, they loved their daughter very much. Now, in the most surprising way, that love came out. Will and Karen were invited to the family home on a clear morning. The mood was strangely peaceful, almost like a secret. Her father didn't say anything, and her mother's grin was little but loving. Will had a feeling that something was about to happen, but she couldn't put her finger on it. After the tea was served, her father coughed. He continued, "We have something for both of you," and his voice was steady but full of feeling. He gave Will a tiny envelope. There was a key inside. Will looked up, confused. "What is this?" she questioned. Her mother's eyes shone as she leaned forward. "It's the key to your new house. A house we bought for you and Karen. A location to start your life together." The words hung in the air like a blessing. Will's breath caught. Karen's eyes widened. For a moment, neither could speak. The weight of the gesture was overwhelming. This wasn't just a gift. It was acceptance. It was her parents saying, "We may not fully understand, but we support you." The family drove together to the new house later that day. Nestled in a quiet neighborhood, the home stood tall and welcoming, its walls painted in soft hues, its garden blooming with promise. As Will stepped inside, she felt a rush of emotions, gratitude, relief, and a sense of belonging she hadn't felt in months. Karen walked beside her, holding her hand tightly. "This is ours," she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. "Our beginning." Her parents watched silently, their expressions softening as they saw the happiness radiating from their daughter. For them, the house was more than bricks and mortar. It was a bridge between tradition and change, between disappointment and hope. Neighbors soon gathered to see the new couple's home. Some offered congratulations, others whispered behind closed doors. But Will didn't care. For the first time, she felt her family standing firmly behind her, shielding her from the storm of judgment. The gift of a home was more than a surprise. It was a declaration. It said, "We may have doubted, but we will not abandon you. We may have struggled, but we will stand with you." And as Will and Karen walked through each room, imagining their future together, they knew this house would hold not just furniture and memories, but the story of love that had fought its way into the light. The new house stood as a symbol of hope, yet inside Will Klein's heart, storms still brewed. The engagement had been celebrated, the family had offered their blessing, and the gift of a home had marked a turning point. But late at night, when the lights dimmed and silence filled the rooms, Will found herself wrestling with questions that refused to fade. She would sit by the window, staring at the garden outside, and wonder, was this truly her destiny? The failure of her exam had changed everything. Had she given up too soon? Was marriage the right path, or was it simply the path chosen because of disappointment? Karen noticed the unease. She would often place a gentle hand on Will's shoulder, whispering, "We're building something real. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt us." Her words were comforting, but Will's mind was restless. Dreams of independence still lingered. She had once imagined herself pursuing higher studies, traveling, proving to the world that she was more than just a star on television. Those dreams hadn't vanished. They lived quietly in the corners of her mind, waiting for her to acknowledge them. Yet, alongside those dreams came doubts. What if the marriage changed everything? What if love wasn't enough to silence the voices of society? What if her parents' acceptance was fragile, ready to crumble under pressure from relatives and community gossip? One evening, Will confided in Karen. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of marrying you, but of losing myself. I don't want my failure to define me. I don't want people to think I settled because I had no choice." Karen listened carefully, her eyes filled with understanding. "You didn't settle," she said firmly. "You chose love. And love is never second best. Your dreams don't have to die because we're together. We can build them together." Her words struck deep. For the first time, Will realize that marriage didn't have to mean the end of her ambitions. It could be the beginning of new ones, shared dreams, shared victories, shared struggles. Still, the doubts lingered. The countdown to the wedding was ticking, and with each passing day, the weight of expectation grew heavier. The house was ready, the family was supportive, but Will's heart was still learning to balance the dreams she once carried with the reality she now embraced. Dreams and doubts walked hand in hand, shaping her nights and guiding her days. And though the answers were not yet clear, one truth remained unshaken. Karen was by her side, ready to face whatever came next. For much of the journey, the spotlight had been on Will Klein. Her failure, her family's disappointment, her secret love, and her eventual engagement. But behind every step stood Karen, quietly carrying her own burdens, her own sacrifices, and her own dreams. Karen had always known that loving Will meant walking a path filled with challenges. From the very beginning, their relationship had been hidden, tucked away in private moments and whispered conversations. She had accepted the secrecy, not because she wanted to hide, but because she understood the weight of Will's family expectations. Yet, secrecy came with its own pain. There were nights when Karen lay awake, wondering if she would ever be accepted, if she would ever be seen as more than just a shadow in Will's life. She feared being the reason for conflict, the reason for disappointment. But despite those fears, she stayed, because her love for Will was stronger than her doubts. When Will finally revealed the truth to her parents, Karen felt both relief and terror. Relief, because the secret was no longer theirs alone. Terror, because acceptance was not guaranteed. Meeting the family was one of the hardest moments of her life. She walked into that living room knowing she might be rejected, knowing she might be blamed for Will's choices. But she also walked in with courage. She spoke with honesty, with respect, and with a quiet strength that came from love. And slowly, she saw the walls begin to crumble. For Karen, the engagement was more than a ceremony. It was validation. It was proof that her love was worthy, that her place beside Will was real. When she slid the ring onto Will's finger, she wasn't just promising forever. She was promising to stand strong against every storm that might come their way. Still, Karen carried her own dreams. She wanted a life where she and Will could build something together. Not just a marriage, but a partnership. She dreamed of filling their new home with laughter, of creating traditions of their own, of proving to the world that love could thrive even when it defied expectations. Her sacrifices had been many: silence, patience, resilience. But her hopes were greater. She hoped that one day people would look at her and Will not with judgment, but with admiration. She hoped that their story would inspire others to choose love over fear. Karen's side of the story was not about fame or recognition. It was about quiet strength, about standing firm in the face of doubt, and about believing that love, when true, could conquer even the deepest resistance. And as the wedding day drew closer, Karen knew that her journey was only beginning. The news of Will Klein's engagement to Karen spread quickly beyond the walls of her family home. What had once been a private struggle was now a public story, whispered in neighborhoods, debated among relatives, and even discussed by fans who had followed Will's journey on television. At first, the reactions were mixed. Some relatives, bound tightly to tradition, shook their heads in disbelief. She failed her exam, and now this. One aunt muttered during a family gathering. For them, Will's choices seemed reckless, a departure from the path they had always imagined for her. Neighbors, too, had their opinions. In the marketplace, whispers floated through the air. Some questioned whether the family had been too lenient. Others wondered if Karen was truly the right partner. Yet, amid the gossip, there were voices of support, voices that recognized courage when they saw it. You know what? A neighbor said proudly, "It takes strength to stand by your love, especially when the world expects you to hide." Will has done something many wouldn't dare. Fans of the little couple reacted with even greater intensity. Social media lit up with posts, comments, and hashtags celebrating Will's engagement. Some praised her for living authentically. Others admired Karen for her quiet strength. A few critics surfaced, questioning whether this was the right time, whether Will should have focused on her studies instead. But the overwhelming tide was one of admiration. Supporters shared messages like, "Love wins. Will and Karen are proof that happiness matters more than tradition." Others wrote, "She may have failed an exam, but she succeeded in finding true love. That's the real victory." Within the family, the shift was gradual. Relatives who had once doubted began to soften. Seeing Will's parents stand firmly behind her made them reconsider their own judgments. Slowly, blessings replaced criticism, and acceptance began to ripple outward. For Will and Karen, the reactions were both overwhelming and affirming. They had braced themselves for rejection, but instead, they found the surprising amount of support. The whispers of doubt still lingered, but they no longer carried the same weight. The community's response became part of their story, a reminder that love does not exist in isolation. It is shaped by the voices around it, challenged by tradition, and strengthened by courage. As the engagement settled into memory, Will and Karen realized that their journey was not just personal. It was communal. Their choices had sparked conversations, shifted perspectives, and inspired others to believe in the power of love. And though not everyone approved, enough people stood with them to make the path ahead feel less lonely. With the engagement behind them and the new house gifted, the days began to blur into a whirlwind of preparations. The calendar was marked with a bold circle around March 10, 2026, the day Will Klein and Karen would officially become wife and wife. Each sunrise brought them closer. Each sunset carried the weight of anticipation. The Klein household transformed into a hub of activity. Relatives arrived with suggestions, opinions, and endless lists. Dresses, decorations, guest lists, menus. Every detail became a topic of discussion. Will's mother busied herself with traditions, ensuring that the ceremony would honor the family's heritage. Karen, meanwhile, worked tirelessly to blend those traditions with touches of modernity, creating a celebration that reflected both their worlds. But with preparations came challenges. Some relatives still whispered doubts, questioning whether the marriage should be celebrated so openly. Others worried about the community's reaction on the wedding day. Will felt the pressure mounting, the same kind of pressure she had felt during her exams. But this time, she refused to let it break her. Late at night, she and Karen would sit together in their new home, surrounded by fabric swatches and invitation samples. "Do you think people will accept us?" Will asked one evening, her voice soft but uncertain. Karen smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Will's face. "They don't have to. This day isn't about them. It's about us. And as long as we stand together, nothing else matters." Her words became Will's anchor. Slowly, the doubts faded, replaced by excitement. She began to imagine the moment she would walk down the aisle, the moment she would take Karen's hand in front of everyone, declaring her love without fear. Preparations continued with bursts of joy. Friends offered to help with decorations, neighbors sent flowers, and fans flooded social media with messages of support. The tide of love grew stronger, drowning out the whispers of doubt. As the countdown ticked closer, Will's parents found themselves smiling more often. They had once feared this path, but now, seeing their daughter's happiness, they embraced it fully. Her father even took charge of organizing the guest list, while her mother carefully selected jewelry for the big day. The final week before the wedding was filled with rehearsals, laughter, and tears. Every detail was polished, every plan finalized. And yet, beneath the surface, emotions ran deep. Fear, joy, hope, and love all intertwined, creating a storm of anticipation. The countdown was more than numbers on a calendar. It was a journey of acceptance, resilience, and courage. And as March 10 approached, Will and Karen knew that the wedding would not just be a ceremony, it would be the ultimate declaration of their truth. And so, the journey of Will, Klein, and Karen reaches its most defining moment. From the crushing weight of exam failure to the courage of revealing a hidden love, from the storm of family pressure to the triumph of engagement, and finally, to the gift of a home and the countdown to a wedding that will change everything. This story has been nothing short of extraordinary. It is a tale of resilience, of love breaking through barriers, and of a family learning to embrace change, even when tradition seemed unshakable. Will Klein's path reminds us that failure does not define us, it redirects us. Her exam results may have disappointed her family, but they opened the door to a truth far greater. The truth of living authentically, of choosing love over fear. Karen's quiet strength, her patience, and her unwavering support became the foundation of this journey. Together, they proved that love is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about standing side by side when the world doubts you, and believing in each other when no one else does. The community's reactions, mixed, emotional, and ultimately supportive, showed that stories like theirs are not just personal. They ripple outward, challenging traditions, inspiring conversations, and reminding us all that love, in its purest form, deserves to be celebrated. Now, as March 10, 2026 approaches, the stage is set for a wedding that will not just unite two hearts, but will symbolize the victory of courage over fear, authenticity over secrecy, and love over judgment. But before we close this chapter, let's pause and reflect. What does Will's journey teach us about the weight of family expectations? Do you believe failure can sometimes be the doorway to destiny? How far would you go to defend your love against tradition and pressure? And most importantly, when faced with the choice between society's approval and your own happiness, which would you choose? This is not just Will and Karen's story. It is a mirror held up to all of us. A reminder that life is not about meeting every expectation, but about finding the courage to live your truth. So, as we await their wedding day, we leave you with one final thought. Isn't love, in the end, the greatest success of all? More update. The little couple Will Klein shares death of my brother. Jin Arnold honors Hoda Kotb with touching tribute. And fans in shock over Will and Zoey Klein's huge growth spurt. Jen Arnold wants midget mascot out of school. I will explain everything. Will Klein, a member of the little couple, relayed the sad news of his brother's death in a recent post on social media. So what did Jen Arnold and Bill Klein's oldest son think? Since the little couple went off the air, Jen Arnold's social media has become the best location for fans to get family news and more. It might not be the same as watching the family show on TV, but it has helped fans keep up with everything going on with them. Will Klein is now active on a number of social media sites, including TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, because he has grown up. When Will turned 14, it seems that his parents thought he was old enough to start writing and talking about things other than what his mom saw. Since he got the green light, he has really taken advantage of that chance. Will Klein shared a short photo collage with the aid of his beloved dog Rocky. A beloved member of the little couple household died in 2022. Will Klein wrote a touching tribute to Rocky on social media as soon as he got his own account. He remembered the great times they had together. Will Klein gave me my brother along with a short slideshow of the images. I'm really sorry for your death. You didn't deserve this. Sorry, everyone. I meant to tell you something long ago. Even though Rocky has been gone for a time, Will and the rest of the little couple family are still sad about his death. Will also did a great thing by making this poignant collage in remembrance of Rocky. Some people who watch the little couple but don't pay attention may not know that Rocky has died. Bill and Jen own Rocky and Maggie's pet store in Houston, and his name is on the sign. He had a big effect on their life for a long time, and they will always think of him with love. After his most recent post, fans of the little couple sent Will Klein many words of support and sorrow. Someone who commented on the little couple said, "Oh no. My sincere sympathies go out to you and your family. He had a wonderful time with you." A compassionate commenter wrote, "I'm so sorry for your loss. You are in my thoughts and prayers." Jen Arnold pays tribute to Hoda Kotb in a touching way. Hoda Kotb, the beloved host of Today, is leaving the show, and Jen Arnold, a cast member of the little couple, recently gave her a touching tribute. What did Jen think of the longtime TV personality now that she is leaving? A few months ago, Hoda Kotb made news when she said she would officially leave Today after many years in the post. A lot of people are sad to see Hoda go since she has been a part of so many homes and has made such a big difference over the years. There will be a lot of unique things going on before Hoda Kotb's last day on the Today set on January 10. Everyone is thinking about how Hoda has changed their lives and the voyage she has been on. One of the people who is thinking about it is Jen Arnold, who plays one of the main characters in The Little Couple. One of the people who recently spoke out about The Little Couple and gave it good reviews was Jen Arnold, who played Hoda Kotb. Along with her moving tribute to the popular anchor, Jen also included a picture from one of her past appearances on Today. Jen Arnold wrote, "Today I'm thinking about Hoda Kotb's amazing journey as she leaves Today. Hoda, you have been a great role model in both my work as a journalist and presenter and in my personal life. Your kindness, insight, and contagious happiness have inspired many of us. Your work in medical media has inspired and taught a lot of people, and I want to do the same thing that you and Jenna have done for a long time." Jen Arnold still uses her more than 1 million followers to speak out about issues that are important to her, even though The Little Couple is no longer on the air. This is one reason why Jen admires Hoda so much. We have a lot in common, a deep love of journalism, and the special, beautiful bond of being adoptive parents. Jen said in her tribute, "Your real goodness and honesty have touched a lot of people, including me." Jen said, "I've always admired the special bond you've had with Jenna Pugger. When you were both on TV, it felt like a mix of real friendship, laughter that spread, and profound, important talks. Seeing the two of you together has been a huge blessing. I believe that you will always be an inspiration, no matter what occurs in life." Wow! Fans are shocked by Will and Zoey Klein's big growth spurt. Fans of the little couple are amazed at how grown-up Will and Zoey Klein have become. People can't believe it when Jen Arnold posts a new update about her kids. People who have been watching the little couple on TLC since the start have seen Will and Zoey Klein grow up. Many fans will always remember the time Jen Arnold and Bill Klein adopted 2 more children into their home. It's only natural for longtime fans to care about what happens to Zoey and Will after everything they've been through. TLC canceled the little couple. Thus, fans haven't seen any new episodes since 2019. They have to read Jen Arnold's social media posts to find out who's coming and going from this family. In her updates, Jen constantly seems to have kids who are becoming older and bigger. Jen Arnold and her family go back to Florida a lot. They are happy in their new house in Boston, but they still have a lot of connections to the city from the years they lived there. Whenever they wish to get away from the cold weather in New England, they should always go to Florida to soak up some sun. Jen Arnold shared a picture from their recent trip to Florida. People can't believe how much Zoey and Will have grown up. Will just turned 14 when he was on vacation with his family in New York City. Zoey will be a teenager like her brother very soon. A lot of people who watch the little couple think that Will Klein is already taller than his dad Bill. His recent growth spurt makes it look like that might be the case right now. As part of the photographs that made the happy, after returning to Florida, Jen Arnold shared a snapshot of Will and Zoey that she dubbed her new favorite photo with her fans of the little couple. Their fans can't help but be amazed at how much they've grown as they pose in their beach clothes. A fan of the little couple wrote, "They look so grown here. Wow, they're so grown up." Someone else who follows them said, "Your son is quite good looking. Enzo is very beautiful." "Oh my, they are both getting so beautiful," said a third devotee of the little couple. "Your parents must be very proud of you too." Jen Arnold wants midget mascot to leave school. One of the biggest fans of small people is Jen Arnold, who stars in the little couple. She recently spoke out against the use of midget mascots in schools. What did she say about wanting to get rid of those mascots and settle this issue? One of the most well-known people speaking out for the rights of people with disabilities is Jen Arnold, who is on the show The Little Couple. Jen, her husband Bill Klein, and their kids got famous because of the family TLC reality show. Even though they are now famous, Jen still uses her fame to support other causes. Even though the little couple isn't on the air anymore, Jen Arnold still has a lot of fans who want to follow her around. Jen can still talk about things that are important to her since she still has that platform and isn't connected to TLC. One of those causes is using her power to stand up for small people all across the world. The little couple's Jen Arnold. Recently, a petition to stop using midgets as school mascots got a lot of attention. One example from a change.org petition that has been going around is the Dickinson Midgets, the mascot of a North Dakota high school. Some people might think this is harmless or just a game, yet it really hurts small kids. The petition website says that at least 5 schools in the U.S. have midgets as mascots in some form. More than 5,000 people have signed the petition so far, which calls for an end to this. Raising Will. Zoey Klein is one of the key reasons Jen Arnold is so determined to fight for small people and put an end to this kind of unfairness. She knows that she and Bill Klein have had problems in the past, so she wants to raise her kids in a place that is as open-minded as possible. Because of this, it's not surprising that she supports the current campaign to stop at least 5 U.S. schools from using midgets as mascots. This petition has already gotten 5,000 signatures. Therefore, a lot of people must agree with it. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.